Hello everybody, my name is George Kafantaris. I'm the founder of Property Portfolio. We help property investors create sustainable property portfolios so the investor can maximise their return and achieve their desired end results. Today I'd like to discuss with you 5 tips in how an investor can create and maximise their property portfolio. The first thing I want to discuss when building a property portfolio, and the main reason we see why most property investors don't succeed in building a portfolio, is they don't have a strategy. So they've actually got no idea why they're investing in a property portfolio in the first place. They don't understand what they want, what benefits are they chasing from having a portfolio, and they actually don't understand what timeline they're trying to achieve it. So what we'll discuss in the next few minutes is how can you build a portfolio, what should you be looking at, what type of benefits are you seeking from your portfolio, and by when. You should ask the question, is the principal of the property management company a landlord and an investor himself? This sounds like an obvious question, but the reason we encourage you to ask this question is that if the person who owns the property management company is not a landlord or a property investor themselves, then how can they treat you, the landlord, with all of the professional services that you require if they don't understand it themselves, because they are not in that space? Do you have access, mobile phone number, email addresses, to the principal himself? So if you need to speak to the principal, do you know who he is? And do you have access to him? If you don't have access to the person looking after your investment property, then you should ask the question why. Before engaging a property management company, you should ask what is that company's communication policy, and in return the company should ask what type of communication do you wish. Now, when a company has many landlords, all the landlords have different needs and wants to the way that they want to be communicated. So you should ascertain from the very beginning, how do you want to be communicated to? Is it by mobile phone? Is it by email? What type of frequency are you after? What type of things do you want to know about? What type of things do you not want to know about? 95% of all property management companies will disperse your rent to you monthly in arrears. And to me that makes no sense. Our disbursement policy is that we will disperse rent weekly. And every week, as long as there's money in our trust account from your tenants, we'll disperse that money to you. And we've mathematically modelled that if you receive your rent on a weekly basis and you did nothing besides put that rent against your loan, and because the loans are determined on a minimum daily balance, you can in fact save thousands of dollars of interest every year just by having your rent dispersed to you on a weekly basis rather than monthly in arrears. So there's one quick tip for you on how you can also increase your cash flow and maximise your returns just by having your money dispersed to you on a weekly basis. The next tip, and in closing, I'd like to discuss is when you're choosing a property management company, you should ask other questions such as, how do you choose your tenants? Right, and it's amazing how different companies got different policies on tenant selection. Now, tenants are the most critical part of this selection, because without good tenants, we will not have your property rented so you can achieve rent for your property. You should ask questions like, what other services can your property management company provide for you? Do they organise quantity surveying reports and so you can maximise your depreciation? Or does your property manager think that your accountant is doing it, and in fact no one is doing it, and you miss out on lots of deductions that you can claim through your tax return? We find that a lot of management companies now are actually providing renovation services. We want to make sure that you're making money from your renovation, and we've seen too many horror stories with renovations. So before you do a renovation, totally understand what the renovation is for, how much it will cost, and you should get a value of your property before the renovation, get a full scope of works as if the renovation is going to happen, and get that totally costed. Then go out and get a valuation of the renovation as if it's already complete before you start anything. You also want to make sure that you've got the right quantity surveyors on board, so that you can actually do what they call a scrapping value of all the things you're going to renovate. And then after the renovation, you go and get another quantity surveyor in there to do a new depreciation schedule. You want to make sure that you know what the new increased rent or your yields will be post-renovation. But the biggest mistake that investors make is that they determine all of this after the renovation is complete, not before the renovation starts. So you should have all of your team of experts with you to ascertain all of this information before you start the renovation, not afterwards. There are many ways a property management company who understands property investing can increase your yields, as in, how should we advertise your property? Where should we advertise your property? What type of tenancy should we put in place? Is it a 6-month or a 12-month? Or in fact, should it be a 9-month? So we can realign your tenancy date with the busiest time of the year. One of the things that we get asked is, what are your fees? Now, how can this question be one of your biggest mistakes? Because the question of fees is the only transparent thing in our industry. Now, I could sit there and charge you X%, and that my X% could be so much cheaper than everybody else's on the market, but in fact, there are 22 other fees that can and do get charged. So a lot of property management companies will advertise their cheap fee to get you into their business, but don't actually sit down and discuss with you the other 22 fees that can get charged. So by the end of the year, if you can charge only half of these fees, you still end up paying a lot more dollars to have someone professional look after your property than what you would had you gone to someone else. So in capping up, when choosing a property management company, fees should be one of the last questions. It should all be about service and delivery rather than what are your fees. I'd like to give you a couple of examples of the different types of properties and what you can achieve from them. So there's lots of terminology that is being used in the property industry, and the different types of properties you buy give you different results. So if you buy a off-the-plan property, if you buy a brand new property, if you buy an old property with intent to renovate, if you buy a regional property, if you buy an inner city property, they will all give you different results. They'll give you different yield, different growth, different opportunities to manufacture income, and unless you understand what is it you want from your portfolio to benefit yourself, then there is no way possible to determine what type of property that you in fact should buy. So far we've discussed two very important points. The first point was you must have a strategy. You, the investor, must have your own needs and wants from your portfolio. We'll then discuss that once you determine what that strategy is, you must then determine what type of property selection types will in fact help you achieve your goals, because we've discussed that different properties have different yields, growth, manufactured equity out of those properties. The very next step is create a team of experts around you. So we find that most successful property investors have a great team. They have a team of accountants. Accountants who are also pro-property. They have finance brokers. They have financial planners. They have property managers. They have insurers. If they're developers, they have town planners. When a client comes to us to help build their portfolio, we will then sit down and see who is their preferred network of alliances. And it's quite sad to see that most clients do not have a team of experts around them. Make sure all of your experts know each other. So if you've got an accountant who's fantastic at setting out structures, but he doesn't know who your finance broker is, the broker might get a deal for you, but actually doesn't work in the structure that the accountant has in fact put in place. So the nexus of all of your alliances is you. So make sure that you make the effort and make the time to introduce all of your alliances to each other so they're all working in the same direction for your portfolio. The tip number 4 sounds so obvious, but it's one that a lot of investors or would like to be investors actually don't do, and that is go out and buy that property. So what we find is that so many people do so much research, they become research experts, but actually not investors. So we see a client year after year and say, what have you done over the last 12 months? Oh, I've gone to 3 more seminars, I've bought 4 more books, I've subscribed to all these services, but they actually have not gone out and bought a property. We find a lot of clients or potential clients that before they see us suffer from paralysis by analysis. So they sit there and analyse everything, but they actually don't go out and buy that property. So without purchasing that property, you will not become an investor, you'll become a research analyst. What's next is then to sit down every 12 months and review your portfolio. See how it's performing, see how you've maximised it, sit down with your experts, make appointments a year in advance and say, we're going to now sit down and talk about our portfolio. Is it achieving the results we want? Let's go out and refinance it. And owning an investment property portfolio is not a set and forget type of experiment. So what it is you've got to be proactively involved and treat your portfolio like a business. You must proactively work in it and make sure that it achieves your results and the benefits that you want from this portfolio. If you've got any questions on how to build a portfolio and you want a no obligation conversation with ourselves, just go to our website, propertyportfolio.com.au, hit all the links, and I'd love to talk to you. Thank you.